right, welcome everyone to the Cultivating Connection, Growing Sustainable School Garden Programs panel. If you're in the wrong room, leave now. Otherwise, you're with us. So today we're going to be talking about not only having school garden programs, but how do they keep them going and how do we expand them. We have some wonderful panelists today. I'm so excited for them to share. But let's start by just kind of gauging the room. So raise your hand if you have a school garden program or are part of one, like helping out with one. Oh, that's like most people. So that's great. Raise your hand if you don't, but you're like interested in learning more. All right, amazing. So everyone's in the right room. Okay, great. So I think we're good to get started. Do you want to introduce our panel? Oh, actually, one last thing. There's like a survey in front of you guys. So anyone that came in a little later, that's just, you can fill it out during the Q&A period or at some point during it, and you'll be able to exchange that for lunch when we leave here at 12:30. So yeah, we can get started. Oh, my name is Sophia. Sorry. I'm the Southern California Operations Manager for the Farm-to-School program at the California Department of Food and Ag.
Hi, everyone. Carmen Carrasco. I'm the Greater LA Regional Network Lead for the Farm-to-School program at CDFA. And we have our panelists here. If you want to introduce yourself, your name and organization, and then we can get started with the questions.
Yeah. Hi, everyone. I'm Alejandra Mendoza. I'm the School Programs Manager for Garden School Foundation.
Hi everyone, I'm Rachel Black. I'm the Executive Director for Garden School Foundation.
Good morning everyone. Paul Hudak, co-founder of Growing Together Education.
Thank you. So I'm going to get started with the first question, and you can decide who wants to answer it. Can you share some general aspects of your work with districts and the projects you are involved with currently, and what inspired your organization's work in school gardens, and how has your approach evolved over time?
Yeah, so Garden School Foundation started when a school in West Adams in LA, they were about to repave their asphalt playground. If y'all are on school campuses, you know that asphalt is everywhere. And they were about to redo that project when teachers, parents, and neighbors kind of got wind of it and tried to stop the district. And we're like, we have something, we have a better idea. We want to build a school garden. That school is 99% Title I, park port area, not a lot of shade, green space. And so really the community came together, stopped the district from repaving, and unpaved an acre of that blacktop. That acre then turned into a school garden, which was run by volunteers, which, as you all know who are involved in school gardens, isn't the most sustainable way to have a school garden. And so they quickly realized, like, wow, an acre is a lot of space, and we need someone here who is dedicated to teaching the students and using it, and also who's here dedicated to maintain it. So that was really the start of Garden School Foundation. That was back in 2005. So we just celebrated our 20-year anniversary. But our organization, while we are still in that school, 24th Street Elementary, we call that our flagship space. We actually also now have programming in 12 other schools. Most of them are part of Los Angeles Unified School District, but then we have one school up in Pasadena Unified School District, and we run a myriad of different programs, really centered around food justice, food access, training the next generation of environmental stewards, and so really tapping into that climate literacy piece, and then raising community health more broadly. And so our two main programs, the first one is an education-based program at Seed to Table. Students come out into the garden twice a month for hour-long lessons. The first is for garden-based science, so really hitting that next generation science, the next generation science standards, English language arts, math, social emotional learning, like all the things that Cassidy was kind of saying, you can touch on all these things in school gardens. Absolutely true. We have a curriculum that we implement that's different for every grade and every month, which really helps us with some funding through the district, but also ensuring that we have a scope and sequence, there's a plan, like students are taking away key educational aspects in the garden. The second time they come out is for a nutrition-based cooking class. Same thing, we have a curriculum that's a different recipe per month per grade. Kindergarten, it's a lot of fine motor skills and tasting and getting them to be brave tasters and not yucking other people's yums and being part of a 2-bite club, all the like foundational work that you need, so that way when they graduate kindergarten, they're learning to use knives, they're using graters and peelers and blenders or bicycle blenders and hot plates and really creating a gamut of recipes. They're all, seasonal for that month. We're trying to harvest as much as we can from the school gardens. As you all know, you can think that there's a ripe watermelon in the garden that you're going to harvest tomorrow. You come to school and that watermelon has magically disappeared. So we try to harvest as much and cook as much from the garden, but, it's a shared space. And then the other program that we run that actually we'll talk about a little bit here too is we have a cafeteria to compost program, which is a food waste recovery and diversion program. Tracy right at the end mentioned that we did get that USDA compost grant with LAUSD. We are running that program in 13 schools within LAUSD for the 2-year grant period with the goal of rolling it out district-wide after using these 2 years. We've been running this program since 2017 in our schools, but now are branching out to some other schools that another nonprofit organization partners with. We only work with elementary schools, so we're dipping our toes into high school composting, which is a whole other fun journey. But yeah, those are our kind of 2 big programs with LAUSD, and then again, we have that one school up in Pasadena Unified. So for the most part, strategy, things have stayed the same. Like, we believe that school gardens are wonderful teaching environments, but really you need to have a staff member there who is dedicated to that school site, building community, getting folks involved in the program. Also for us, it's mandatory that every class participates in the program. If we're partnering with you, it's not, some teachers sign up. We're not doing a 6-week rotation with some classes and then switching to the next. Every student is coming into the garden for 2 hours every month from pre-K through 5th or 6th grade. Our program is great for a year, but we see the benefits and we see that long-term change when kids are going through it for all 6 or 7 years.
Awesome. Yeah. I love it. Thanks again for having me. So just I'm going to tell you a little bit about my backstory, just to contextualize where a lot of my answers today are going to come from. I spent my early 2000s managing production scale organic farms, mostly up in the state of Oregon. And then in around 2005, got into, or 2006, the education space. So I've spent the last, I'm dating myself completely, but the last almost 20 years in the education world. And then most of the time spending 3-4 years on campus at a school as a district employee, founding a school garden program that was ranging from the scale of 5 acres of student employment projects tied in with internships and project-based learning to smaller scale rooftop type stuff. And then coming out of COVID, just got really, frankly, burnt on classroom teaching, kind of melding 2 of my favorite worlds, but just I couldn't do the all 50-hour a week, just strictly teaching and everything else, right? So started growing together education and coming right out of COVID. And what we do is we offer a myriad of services. We will do site designs, build outs. We work with schools across the country. Today I'm going to be mainly focusing on the work that we do with Bellflower Unified, and then a little bit of work in Santa Monica, and then down in Riverside as well. But we will do teacher trainings, site designs, build outs, a little bit of student instruction as well, curriculum development. Really not a one-size-fits-all model at all. Just really getting to know the particular school. Sometimes it's one school site, sometimes it's district-wide, but getting to know who they are and then help design programs that, really meet their needs and as a community, an education community, but also their broader community needs as well. A little bit of I'm going to talk about this probably extensively throughout the different questions, but the work that we're doing with Bellflower Unified has just been an incredible model. They've been such a great partner. We're really working with a lot of different stakeholders in their school community to make this a robust program where we're delivering 500 heads of lettuce a week to their nutrition services department. I'll touch on that a little bit more, but I think that's a good starting point.
All right, thank you so much. So excited to get more into it. I think two of the biggest pieces that probably everyone here knows that are key to sustaining a school garden program are funding and district support. So could you talk a little bit more about some of the strategies that you use to,
Yeah. So, we partner with LAUSD, which is, the second largest school district in the nation. We have been their partner for 20 years, and year 20 is when we finally got that relationship with them where we have contacts higher up in the district. Otherwise, we were very school site based. Our relationship is with the principal, the PTA, the classroom teachers, anyone else kind of on that campus. But yeah, we were really kind of stuck in that, like, this is where our relationship is, but we need to go bigger. And so we're really grateful. It kind of came at a networking session, kind of like this, that LA Food Policy Council was putting on, and our partner Crop Swap LA was there, and I was just chatting with him, and he was like, oh, do you know Florence? She'll love to know about, or more about your cafeteria to compost program that you're running. We had worked with, facilities because they wanted to come and see it, so that way if they're building new cafeterias or new kitchens, what infrastructure do we need? Or we'd had folks who came and visited the school garden, but we didn't really have that contact. And if you work with a really big district, you can just be shouting out into the void for 20 years and really not get that contact. And so we were really grateful for that networking, and then that kind of really spiraled quickly into this cafeteria or USDA compost grant. And then with that, now we're looking to apply to the upcoming USDA Farm-to-School grant with them as well to kind of expand that. But kind of like Cassidy said, it's a long-term thing. Again, we were partners with them for 20 years before they really acknowledged us and wanted to partner with us. But funding is that biggest thing. And I would say in our 21 years as an organization, we've had, really hard financial years. We've had really good financial years, but our biggest thing really is diversifying your revenue. As a nonprofit, we have corporate partners who fund school programs. We apply for big grants. We get foundations, small family foundations, individual donors. We do volunteer or corporate volunteer events in the gardens for a fee. All of these different things that have really allowed us to be here 21 years later. But we're also always partial fee for service. So our schools pay something for our programming. Some of our schools, it's $5,000 because LA Galaxy is right there, and LA Galaxy puts the rest of that bill. Some of them, they are a partnership school, so they have $60,000 that they can dedicate to the program year after year. And so every school pays something. It just is a different hodgepodge for our programming. And then for our cafeteria to compost program in particular, the Sprouts grant was mentioned earlier. They are one of our biggest funders. They've funded the cafeteria to compost. They've given us over $1 million for that cafeteria to compost program over the last 7 or 8 years. And so they really helped us get it to a point where the district is interested in it, and we were able to get that USDA grant. And so it really is for us as a nonprofit, getting your fingers into a little bit of everything. Sometimes you're incorporating things into your grant that doesn't necessarily align with all the things you're doing, but you're this is how we can get this money. But yeah, getting that district stakeholder attention is huge. And I would say that another reason that we have done so well, especially in the last couple of years, our budget went from $400,000 to now $1.3 million, is because of data. We collect a lot of data, anything you could possibly collect. Data-wise, we collect it, and that really is the reason that we are where we are, because we can say this is how many minutes or hours the students are getting every year. These are the standards they're hitting. This is the responses from the pre-survey. These are the responses from the post-survey. They've learned all of these things. We survey principals, teachers, family members, kindergartners and fourth graders. Really, stats is the huge thing. And then again, that's what the district cares about. They want to know that your programming is moving forward, educational goals. They want to know how much food you're producing that kids are getting to try, how many new fruits and vegetables they're trying based on the garden. So stats, I would say, is while annoying and takes a lot of time, that data is really the key.
Yeah. Well, I think a lot of what we're going to say is similar, and I want to piggyback on that a little bit. I think you made a reference to just having diversifying as much as possible, and I think I'll speak to the the long-term district support piece of that. the more you can diversify like a program like this within a school district, the easier sell it will be long term. A lot of the programs, with my company now and just with the work I've done in the past, with the programs that have had longevity, have been ones where we've really collaborated closely with nutrition services. That's been one of our strongest collaborative partners, because if you can, this is like, I'm coming from a place in my heart, but also strategically as well, right? Like looking at trying to keep these programs going long term. If you can work with a nutrition services department, produce on scale, and let them see that you're producing a pretty significant amount of food by students for students, that's a pretty easy sell. And then of course the education piece as well. Developing very rigorous curriculum that's serving the academic needs of the students, but also the socio-emotional needs of the students as well. I mean, we partner a lot with culinary arts departments in different schools that we work with. That's the best. Doing field trips where you can be collaborating. Like we'd work primarily with high schools, but also with like pre-K through 8 programs as well. So if you can be having your high school students mentoring some of your younger students within the district, almost as like a farm league. Like they're coming up, getting turned on to these programs in elementary schools, working their way up, and then knowing that this is something that I can look forward to within my educational career, that's a home run as well. The mental health piece I'll talk to a little later on, but that's a really important piece of this puzzle as well. And then one thing that we've seen as far as getting continued district support, districts always love good press. And we have been able, with the schools that we worked with for the last 20 plus years now, leveraging any positive press that comes through. We just got done with Bellflower. We, through a contact of mine, got reached out to by Jamie Oliver, like the chef, maybe 2 years ago. He's got this great program in the UK called the Ministry of Food, where they serve over 100,000 students. And they were looking to pilot this in the United States, and so they reached out to me and asked if I knew any districts that I work with who would be primed for that. I said, yeah, Bellflower for sure. So we piloted that. A year and a half of working with students in Bellflower, growing produce with them, doing these 10 recipes. And then it was just such a hit. He was out doing promotion for, Chef's Table last spring. And so he came and spent a day with our students and was working, I'll talk about the storage container that we grow a ton of food in, but just a really powerful moment that garnered a lot of press. And it was a great thing to highlight really the important work that's being done in Bellflower. This school district, I can't say enough great things about it, and it really flies under the radar in Southern California, in the LA area. And so to have that opportunity, it's great for the students, it's great for the district, and then being able to leverage that press moving forward really, I think, lends itself to the longevity of a program.
Great. Thank you. Can you talk a little bit about how you work with the teachers to integrate garden-based education or nutrition education into their academic standards? And if you have some examples for the audience that you can provide with some schools.
I could talk on that. So like Rachel said, our Seed to Table program, it's aligned with Next Generation Science Standards. And so, we built the curriculum so that it incorporates as much crossover with what teachers are learning or teaching in class. And it's evolving too. We almost every summer, it's kind of a joke, but it's fun. But almost every summer we're really reworking our curriculum, trying to make it better. Getting feedback from these teacher surveys, like, hey, what can we do more? Sometimes they say, can we get more writing? Can we get more math problems? So there's always that stream of communication between the teachers, whether it's the garden educator during the class, like, hey, how's it going? What do you think? Like, is it going okay? Or it's like, weeks leading up to it, and we're reminding them, oh, we have cooking class next week. And it's like, what do you think? This is what we're gonna do. This is the recipe. Do you have any requests? And so there's always collaboration in that end as well. But yeah, some examples. I mean, I think the fan favorite for students is our pumpkin dissection lesson during October. We're learning about the parts of a plant, right? A lot of teachers are like, oh my God, we read a book about it. This is perfect. And so, they're seeing it firsthand. They're seeing the plant in the garden. They're able to touch the pumpkin. They're able to reach in and grab some seeds, and it's a sensory thing. And it's fun and exciting. And then they break up into their groups, and then they're counting, right? And we get the teachers, perfect, we're counting by tens right now. Everybody line up your seats in groups of 10, and they're able to okay, this is perfect. We're not using chips, we're not using blocks. This is like a real life example of how we can use math in the garden. And so, yeah, I think that applies for a lot of things, geography, English. We have some dual language schools. We incorporate Spanish. And so there are just so many opportunities. And since it is required for everyone to attend, I really think that's a key part of it. They know that, okay, we're going to be in the garden, might as well maximize this opportunity. Can you talk about this? Can you talk about that? Because the moment it is optional, that's when, oh, we're busy, we can't make it. And so I think having that structure in place really makes a big difference.
One thing I'll add too is, we share our scope and sequence at the beginning of the year, so that way teachers also know what's coming. And sometimes they'll be like, hey, you're doing life cycle in October, we're going to be covering it in November, can you swap that lesson? So again, also making sure that the teachers know what to expect year after year is very helpful.
I think for us, that approach begins, like in the initial conversations of a potential partnership, like letting them know it's not cookie cutter, it's not one size fits all. Working with schools across the country, vastly different growing conditions and climates, vastly different communities. Like rural Vermont looks a lot different than the schools that we work with in like South Central LA, right? And so we shouldn't, in my opinion, shouldn't be teaching the same thing. So we'll meet with them, find out, get to learn who their communities are. That involves conversations with administrators, with teachers. We'll walk through, depending, we might just be doing curriculum for a 9th grade class, or it might be 9th through 12th. So we'll have conversations with teachers, try to understand what they're teaching throughout the course of the whole year, what that looks like, not all the way down to the minutia, but what projects might look like in their class, and then taking our historic agricultural knowledge and putting together a package for them that suits their climate, their growing needs, their spatial needs, right? We're doing a lot more rooftop farms and gardens these days and greenhouses, especially in our hyper-urban areas, which is super duper exciting. In Bellflower, one of the things we're doing, we have this thing called the Freight Farm. I know a couple folks that I met last time know about this. It's awesome. It's like a 10-foot wide by 40-foot long storage container retrofitted to be a hydroponic growing space. So we're growing at all given times 2,000 heads of lettuce on a rotational cycle. This is part of the students' education. They're learning about the science behind the hydroponic piece of it. As far as the actual curriculum development, we're doing NGSS standards. We're helping establish in a lot of schools, goodness gracious, I should know this because I'm developing this, but agriculture and natural resources, right? So developing urban farm science courses, really, I don't know, I'm proud of this obviously, but I think it's amazing. I wish I had had this opportunity in high school. I would have been way more dialed in. But it's we're at one campus in Bellflower, we're teaching on the rooftop in traditional soil in greenhouse. So the students are learning soil science. That's on one night a week. And then the next night they're in this freight farm learning hydroponics, taking their phones out and turning lights on and watering systems through their app. So with a lot of youth, existing through all of us through our technology, that juxtaposition of technology and science, and just turning them onto that. But that's a unique thing. That's not necessarily what we would do with one of our schools on the coast in Oregon, right? Our school there is involved in a lot of their oyster production. So we're looking at how do we tie that into farming and natural resources as well. So a lot of my answers are meandering, and hopefully I've answered most of them.
That's great. Kind of in the same vein of responsiveness to the community that we're in, how do you ensure that your school gardens are culturally relevant and reflective of the communities they serve? And could you share a little bit about how you help build ownership of the space with your students and parents?
Yeah, I would say we just try to get as many voices in any of the decisions that we make, whether it's like, I'm gonna go to the nursery, like, what do y'all want me to buy, you know? Or what seeds would you like me to start? And so, you know, we're just trying to get as many opinions, whether that's like school staff, whether that's the students during class, and also just parents. I feel like that was always my goal when I was an educator. Like, I want to talk to as many parents as possible, whether that's like when they're being dropped off, when they're being picked up. You know, I'll save my harvested items, and I'm like, I'm gonna give it to people and just chat them up. I feel like that is such, you know, small thing, conversations, connecting with people, but when you build those relationships, and that's something that we really value when it comes to a new school, like, build as many relationships with anyone. Introduce yourself, talk to them, what's their favorite plant, what's their favorite flower, find how you can connect them to the space, and I think that kind of ties into the ownership of it. You know, my favorite example is when I was at one of our new schools, 99th Street. I was trying to get my name out there. I'm like, oh, I'm the garden teacher. And I heard it was someone's birthday, and I'm like, I'm gonna cut them a bouquet of flowers, and I brought them a bouquet of flowers, and they're like, where did you get this? I'm like, from the garden. And they're like, you have flowers in the garden? I'm like, yeah, you should come and check them out. If you have a favorite flower, let me see, I'll try it and see if I can grow it. And so, you know, they become invested in, like, how's the garden going? And, you know, they feel more tied to it, because I feel like a lot of people, when you have a garden, you'll get the, oh, I don't have a green thumb. Like, oh, it looks nice from far away, you know, but they don't feel like they can step in. You know, we have some nopales by the edge of our garden, and people are like sneaking in to get. I'm like, no, come in. We can get you a basket, a bag, anything. And so really just like making them feel comfortable and making them feel like they belong in that space. Because people are naturally curious. They, you know, whether they have ties from like when they grew up in like near agriculture, they want to be reconnected, but sometimes it's that kind of barrier of like, oh, this is your garden. And it's like, no, this is everyone's garden. And so we try to establish a lot of opportunities for parents to come. You know, if it's open house, we have a stop in the garden. We have a scavenger hunt, stop by. We have community garden days where we open it up to everyone. And those are the best, because the students are telling their parents, like, this is the plant that I planted, and this is where this is. And so, you know, they're able to see their excitement, and then parents are able to get invested as well. And then the last one I was going to say was family workshops. I think that was like such a huge success. This last year we rolled out a lot more, and this was like based off of feedback. Parents wanted, like, can we get a cooking workshop, a gardening workshop? And we're like, let's do it. And they were so excited, and they were so invested. And I think it helped them understand what the program was like for their students. Like, oh, this is what you're doing in cooking class? This is pretty cool. You're talking about pickling and fermenting things. And so just as many opportunities as you can to like bring people in, have them create their own connection, that's gonna make them feel more invested. And they're gonna be like, oh yeah, I'm gonna swing by the garden and see if there's still some basil, instead of just like, oh, that's nice. Yeah.
I love it. You basically said it all. But like, I think that you said early on, the more voices, the better. And that's from our experience. It's been the same thing. It's like, it's the best when you have parents coming for pickup and they're like blowing past their kids to come to you and like share seeds that they brought back, right? It's all like part of tying this community together. And I mean, I think like as far as like on a more school-wide scale or district scale, I'm trying to think of what I can say that would be any different from what you said, because you got it. But you know, if we're working with a school or a district where we're really trying to expand it out, maybe get a foothold or just not sell it, but get more people engaged, right? We'll have meetings with the culinary arts. Like a lot of the work that we do at schools is within the CTE world. So we will engage culinary arts directors and start growing, like have our students grow for their classes, and then do crossovers where they'll come to visit our class for a class and learn from our students, and then vice versa, we'll go and cook with them. That's always a home run. And then trying to think of there was one other, I mean, I think engaging like community partners when you can as well. That's been something that's been amazing. You know, we've with different schools been able to collaborate with local chefs or restaurants where we're growing food and providing that to restaurants. And I think, especially like on the high school level, the more real world relevance that any of this work has, the more engaged they're going to be in it, as opposed to just something that's theoretical or like a dip in and a dip out. It's like, no, we have a contract to sell this, and you have skin in the game, right? And so then they're going to engage more. And then just, one thing that we found a lot of success with that's been a blast, going back to that like container farm / rooftop farm thing, you were saying, like, have the students pick a plant. It's like, have them choose a plant. It could be something that they've seen in a video game, or it could be an ingredient that they love to eat, a flower that they're drawn to. They choose that seed, they'll start the semester in the urban farm science course. Growing that, they'll germinate it, they're learning about what it takes to germinate a seed. It could be 2 days, it could be 3 weeks, like it's teaching a lot of life lessons, patience, and all that along the way. But then they're growing them in these two vastly different environments, right? In the freight farm, the environmental condition is between 63 and 67 degrees with very regulated light that mimics the summer solstice, as opposed to the rooftop greenhouse that the temperature varies from like 48 to 125, right, depending. And so without fail, this plant that they've chosen that once it's sprouted, they're deeply invested in, it's going to normally thrive in one place and suffer terribly in the other place. And that's a hard pill to swallow for them. And as an educator or a program designer, you're teaching them along the way, like, here's why this is happening. And then, you're just sliding in all the science through the back door because their eyes are open to it. Yeah.
Great. So another question for urban ag producers in this space, do you see an opportunity for collaboration or partnerships with districts and school gardens? And if you have any advice for those producers?
Do you want to go first?
I was fine going second, but since you offered, this was the one that I was most excited for.
Perfect.
So do we have any urban farmers who are looking to collaborate with schools? Okay.
One.
Okay,
Perfect.
cool. So yeah, this is for you. Make sure I understand the question. And I guess no, this is for everyone, of course. I think it really. Can you tell me just quickly, like, what's your space or what's your hope?
We're located at a nursery. It's a raised bed farm, and we have some extra trays kind of around right now because we've been moving around different locations. So since we have the extra trays, like possibly bringing those trays to schools, or things are kind of like in the works. But I mean, not in the works, but like there's ideas floating around right now.
Yeah.
What the next stage of the project might be.
Cool. Thanks for sharing that. I mean, I think, for any urban farmer that wants to connect with a school or a school district, relationships, right? And good relationships are like listening and speaking, right? And so understanding, like going to the school, getting to know their administration, their teachers, having them understand what your space is as well, and then offering opportunities where students can come out to see your space. If they've got like a real groovy like school garden, that's awesome. They take pride in that. They're only going to get excited by seeing other models. So having the opportunity to like come out, see your space, learn and understand what's going on there, and then one aspect that I think is really exciting that we're able to do with this freight farm and other similar models and urban farms we worked with in the past is to like bring what you do into the school. Like, I mean, yeah, I don't have any pictures of it, but there are these giant panels that I cram into my little Prius when we go over to elementary schools, But when you're walking even just to a classroom with like 50 heads of lettuce growing on something that normally hangs on the wall, it's turning all heads, right? So then in the classroom, they're excited about that. So maybe you're going in and doing a seed germination lesson, or they're coming out to your space to learn about that. But I think, like one thing that I'm personally and my company is always striving to achieve is blurring the lines between like school and home. Like we hope that a student will get so interested in what we're doing that they are going home to continue researching that, to continue practicing that. It doesn't just end at 3 o'clock, right? And so I think the more opportunities that students have to go out and learn, like leaving and learning. I used to work with a great organization called Big Picture Learning, and they were big on like leaving to learn. The more opportunities the students have to do that, and in your case, like come to your site, the more that's going to perpetuate this general thought and excitement of learning outside of the school wall, or even on a campus with school gardens. It's like stepping out the door and then continuing it. So, yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Great, and yeah, I'll also speak directly to you, but then other, you know, some other options for everyone else. So, one example and two folks that I think you should talk to. One is Circa Cultivation. Matthew's here; he has his little Circa hat on, and then the other is Crop Swap LA. Both of them were more in the farming space, but also support school gardens. So, Crop Swap LA does like front yard gardening and really tries to get hyperlocal produce into the community. They also now support some school gardens, so they have like moved into the school garden space. They're the other partner for us for that USDA Cafeteria to Compost grant, so they're also now getting their hands more into composting. But that's one example, is like just having front, like, you know, they're doing both. They're being urban ag producers, but then they're also on school gardens. But also for the rest of y'all, Circa Cultivation is one of our partners. We got connected with them because they were looking to give away free seedlings, and you know, we have 10, 11, 12 school gardens that if we're purchasing seedlings, we will always take some free seedlings. So that was kind of how that connection started. And then as we learned more and more about their work, we got some opportunities to partner with them a little more formally. And so they have done for the last 2 years professional development training for our staff. So we have 27 staff members that are across our school sites, but we were looking to turn 2 of our larger gardens, including that acre garden space, into more production style farms, so that we could really grow more for our school population, recognizing that, again, both of those schools are highly food insecure, high Title I percentages, and we have a lot of space. And so Matthew came in with his team and not only did like weekly production farming professional development that, you know, if you work in the school garden space, like you're not really growing that much all the time, right? Like there are little hands that, again, you have that watermelon and then the next day it's gone. You really become unemotionally attached to plants because you could have planted something and then the next day someone else planted something on top. So it's really more of an educational environment. However, these 2 schools where we've really ramped up our production, it was really helpful to have someone who has experience in that space come in and train our staff. I think the other opportunity is they now partner not only with us, but with a bunch of other nonprofits within LAUSD to provide similar training. They also work with high schools, and so like really that CTE aspect, that job readiness aspect. So there are a lot of ways that producers can work with schools. It's just gonna look a little different depending on the school district. But I do think finding those like nonprofit partners, especially for a district as large as LA Unified, is like probably the easiest way in. And while like, yeah, giving away a bunch of free seedlings all the time might not be the most sustainable, it is like a way in. And then after that, like we've always incorporated now moving forward, like purchasing all of our seedlings for the most part from Circa. And so, you know, again, as a nonprofit, like we're not always gonna have that money, but when we have that money, we're going to invest it in the partner who was there for us from the beginning.
All right, so we have time for one more question for all 3 of you. Could you share about your capacity for partnership? I know we talked a little bit about partnership already, but maybe going deeper on that, and what you offer to districts, and who would make ideal partners?
Do you want to go first again?
Sure, yeah, thanks. Yeah, I mean, I already spoke to what we do. Yeah, we're always looking for new partners, districts, curriculum writing, site designs. Yeah, I mean, I think the ideal partner or district would be one that is looking to address all sides of the student. So the mental health piece, the physical health piece, obviously like the education, the hands in the dirt piece, but you know, that's, yeah. I guess a district who has a holistic hope for the student, we're happy to do that. With that said, we're happy to work with districts who are welcoming any aspect of what we do. And yeah.
Great. And yeah, I would say for our seed to table programs, our educational program, we don't really have a lot of capacity to expand that currently. Again, with this upcoming farm to school grant, we're hoping to continue to expand within LAUSD. But I will acknowledge that program is very pricey, like our program compared to some of the other vendors who offer a garden-based education program, just because of the amount of staff time that we dedicate. Like Alejandra oversees all our school-based folks, so like we are really deep in that community. It is a very expensive program, we know that. But I would say where we really have capacity is with that cafeteria to compost program. So we really developed it because at the time there wasn't a cafeteria to compost program anywhere across the country that we could find. Like we were calling up random school districts trying to figure out what they were doing. We had like a group of USC students try to figure out, and there was really like nothing that looked like what we were doing. And so the plan for that and why we were able to continue getting funding from Sprouts was really that, you know, there is this gap. We know that food waste is going to become a hot topic. We saw that happen. We know there's mandates. That one person from that school district that is getting audited, like, you know, that's gonna start happening. Like we know that they already approached LAUSD about it. And so that program we really developed to be able to incorporate and fit any school district in any model. And so if you are interested in that program in particular, especially knowing that those audits are starting to happen, like we would love to talk to you about it. You can always come visit our school sites. We can come to your school sites. But I would say really that's where our capacity is right now. And especially with, you know, there's also more funding for folks for this because there's like so many benefits. We redistribute probably about 20 to 30,000 pounds of food left over from lunch that went uneaten back to the community. We have diverted over 100,000 pounds of food from the landfill. And then we're just generating compost on our sites. We do compost on site at all of our sites. And so we're also closing that loop. We're not purchasing compost from anyone. We're making our own compost that's going back into the soil. So there's a lot of different like money savings on our end, money savings on the district's end. And so too, just like playing with that idea of like, you know, if you are getting kids to eat more of the food, if you are reducing what's going, you know, your contract with the waste hauler, like all of these things have larger implications. But I would say like the cafeteria to compost program is probably where we have the most capacity. And then two, just, you know, it can be challenging navigating relationships with many different school districts for our seed to table program. So yeah, cafeteria to compost I would say is our main capacity area.
All right. So, well, Carmen, do you want to move us into the Q&A?
Sure. So we have a little bit of time for questions from the public. So if anybody wants to ask, please go ahead.
So one of the questions as we're starting our garden is like, yes, kids can stick seedlings in dirt, but who do you have do the irrigation and the building of the boxes and stuff that small children Sorry.
Yeah, I can jump in and then
Yeah.
if you want. So we have our staff for the most part do a lot of that. If we are, you know, we rehab garden spaces that are already in existence. For those of you who like work directly with districts, if you're building a new garden, there's a lot of different paperwork that comes with that versus if you're rehabbing a green space or maybe a reading garden into an edible garden. So we're very particular about our language. But we will either use that as a staff development day of like, great, we're all going to learn how to use circular saws. We're all going to learn how to use drills. Like that is what today is going to be. Or we do it at a community garden day and we say like, hey community, we're about to like rehab your garden space, and we'll gather like volunteers from local businesses, school families, anything like that. But yeah, we recognize that there's a lot of projects, I would say, in the garden that the little hands are maybe less useful for. And then for irrigation, same thing. Like we put in that irrigation, the districts we work with, you know, won't really touch the irrigation that is put into the garden, which, you know, has its ups and downs. But yeah, again, kind of focusing it as like a professional development project. We're all gonna learn how to install this irrigation from a blank slate, or then too, like, we'll get PTA members involved. Maybe there's a teacher who's like really into it involved, and to help maintain and continue that. But yeah, we really rely on our staff and then the community to get those bigger projects done.
So I would say from my experience of having done this a lot at schools from the ground up with no idea where to begin with that, like the best relationships you can have are with the facilities team within your school district. I mean, I could shout out so many amazing facilities team colleagues that I've had from different districts over the years. If you got them on your side and they see the merit in it, and they've got good relationships with administrators at the school or brass within the district that wants to see this happen, then they're more likely to get on board. And then, to your point, I think getting parents, getting teachers involved in it, because I think, if there's nothing there to start with, then you might have to get a ditch witch out there, or there might have to be some trenching that happens to get irrigation laid, and not a lot of parents or teachers are going to want to do that. But if facilities team can get that piece in place, and then not exactly plug and play, but like the rest of it can be kind of easily assembled by staff and parents, that's a really good way to get them engaged kind of from the beginning, the inception of the project, to generate excitement, to hopefully then send it off.
Thank you.
Please go ahead.
With all of you guys' extensive experience, have you found that there's a sweet spot on school garden sizing that will encompass the scope of your curriculum without being overwhelming and without being, 2 lettuce plants in a pot?
Our school gardens look vastly different. Like, our largest one is that acre garden where we have probably 20 different raised beds, 50 fruit trees, 5 different like production rows, a whole compost corner, that looks, and then we have schools that have 6 little raised beds in a very small space. So really it's for us, it's like finding the space that's available on campus. We've also worked with schools who just built beds on asphalt, and like they weren't going to get, their campus greened anytime soon. They didn't have any green space. And so really for us, it's been like finding what can work within the school. And then, I do think that maintenance piece is probably the hardest piece. And that's the piece that we always emphasize with our partners, our main focus is the education piece. We will do garden maintenance, but the biggest thing is getting kids out here and doing it. And sometimes too, if you don't have administrators who are familiar with gardening, they can think oh, why is everything dead in that bed? And it's oh no, we're saving seeds. This is for the 3rd graders. We're talking about adaptations, all the things. And so it's oftentimes too just communicating. We put up a lot of signs in the garden just to be that's dead. We're saving these seeds. Please don't touch these. Or this thing is planted here. This bed isn't empty. But I would say it's a constant struggle, is finding the way to maintain everything well and intentionally, but then again, really framing it as a learning space. It is an educational space. It's gonna look how it looks. You come back and someone's painted that bed purple. Great, cool. I love that for us. And so it really is just making sure everyone knows it's their space, but again, signage, but it's never gonna look we went to Alma Backyard Farms, and I was oh my goodness, this is the most beautiful place I've ever been. Our gardens are never gonna look like that. It's just never gonna look like that.
Yeah, I agree. I think it depends on the space that you have. It depends on what the goals are too, and it depends on the age. So if it's an elementary school, just looking to establish a school garden, 1/10 of an acre can be very biodiverse and very inspiring.
Yeah.
Some schools that we've worked with who are looking to, the first farm school I started up in Oregon, we had 3 acres, and it snowballed in a good way, where we had it set up as an internship for students, and we were getting money thrown at us to the point where we had after school and summer youth employment programs. We were producing produce for 30 schools in the district. And if that's what if the intention is, let's do this on a middle or high school level and grow a ton of food for nutrition services, then, the sky is the limit with the right, intention and resources and general management. Yeah.
I would also add, like, as you're having these conversations with parents or teachers or administrators, just like get a good idea of how involved people want to be, because it's very easy to say, oh, we'd love a garden, but it's like, okay, let's create a system. Who wants to come water? Do we want to do like 15-minute increments every other week? You know, how are we going to do it? I think it's always good, like, to start small and realistic and build that habit and that routine. And once people have it down, like, oh yeah, I go to the garden every other week. Once you have that consistent support, if you don't have an educator who's there every day, you know, let's say, oh, we're getting a lot more involvement from parents. People are getting invested. They have more requests. Like, hey, let's consider expanding. Maybe let's add 2 more beds. And so sometimes it's good to start small, start a bit more, you know, just being careful with how much, because if you kind of overshoot it, then it becomes a much bigger project, and it's like, I don't want to be in charge of that. And so it is a fine line, which is probably not a good answer, but it is good to start small and like see how well can we like take care of the space.
Yeah.
And then the one thing I'll add to is the School Garden Support Organization Network. They have done a lot of research around the success of school gardens if you have paid staff who oversee that garden. I would definitely recommend like checking out their website. They have like a lot of wonderful webinars and resources, but there's a lot of research that shows having paid folks, and you know, not only do classroom teachers have so many requirements that they're trying to fit, a lot of them too aren't necessarily comfortable teaching outside. It's a completely different experience taking your students outside to a classroom, and so really just having folks there who can help with some of those things is really beneficial.
Can you repeat what the resource?
Yeah, so it's School Garden Support Organization, SGSO network. They have a school garden conference every other year. So quick plug, I think it ends, like registration ends December 5th, but they're having it in Phoenix this year in February. It's the Growing School Garden Summit. It's a great opportunity, like for entry level school gardens to like 50-year established school gardens. And yeah, we've gone this is like, I think their 4th. But it's a really wonderful opportunity. But again, the SGSO network, they have like monthly webinars. They have a bunch of different research that they've done. They're actually working currently to like map school gardens across the country to get a good sense of like what's happening.
Nice.
Can you also just all repeat the organizations that you guys are with?
Yeah, we're with Garden School Foundation. So our website is just gardenschoolfoundation.org. Instagram, I think, is also Garden School Foundation.
I'm with Growing Together Education, and I got cards if anyone wants them.
Thank you.
Yeah, any more questions?
Yes, I'm wondering how you incorporate the different students that you serve, their culture, how is that represented throughout the gardens? And the reason why I'm asking is I work for a school that has a very diversified student population, so I'm very curious to know how you incorporate that into your curriculum.
Yeah, I think one of the things that we do to highlight different cultures and backgrounds is through our cooking classes. So, you know, throughout the months we highlight different regions, whether it's like, Black History Month, Indigenous Peoples Month, just because those conversations are really popular in schools. They're talking about it with their teachers, and so it's a great tie-in to then highlight like either a common ingredient or a common dish that's done at home. And those conversations are always the best, because then you get kids being like, what? I make this at home. What? And so again, like they're making that tie in to like their personal life, and it develops that passion for cooking as well. But we're also in the process of trying to also highlight more agricultural practices, right? We have the Three Sisters garden lessons, and just again, like that's something that we're trying to constantly evolve. Like can we incorporate more of these themes from different regions? And so again, that's the beauty of having the liberty of being able to edit our curriculum. So it is one of our like long-term goals. How can we do more of it?
Yeah, and I would say in like the summer of 2021, I think we did a huge overhaul of our cooking curriculum. It had been created in like 2010, and so even the way you talk about food in that decade changed very drastically, and there were just things from that curriculum that like pains you to read, like, ooh, we're not saying this as like in front of these kids. And so a lot of it too was around like cultural relevancy, and that like, you know, we're not gonna frame white rice as bad. Like, we're just not gonna do that. Like, there are things that culturally like help heal you, or, you know, are part of celebrations. And so it's really talking about food in a holistic way. And so a lot of our nutrition topics do align with that. And recognizing that like we're working with elementary school kids, like they don't have a lot of agency in choosing what they eat every day. We're working with a lot of food insecure families who, same thing, like there aren't always a lot of options. And so really making sure that the way we're talking about food isn't alienating anyone, but also, as Alejandra said, like, hey, I recognize this ingredient. Like, we use okra in this dish. Like, I never knew that this is what the okra plant looked like. I never knew you could eat okra in this way. But really trying to make sure that we're, like, even for Hispanic Heritage Month, like, we made a cauliflower ceviche, we made vinaigrette, we made pico de gallo, we made curtido. Like, we're just, like, trying to fit in all of these different things. And it's not just, oh, we're just making another salad today, and, like, salads are the best thing to eat. Yum. Like, we're really trying to hit all these other things.
So what we do, we'll meet with community members, I mean administration, teachers, parents even, right? To understand, like, we do a lot of work with a First Nations tribe up in Saskatchewan. And so completely different from what we're doing in LA, right? But meeting with them, understanding, like, everything that we grow is an heirloom variety. So we're teaching about that. One of the things we always say, every seed has a story, it's got a history. So learning these varieties, like I grew up in upstate New York and spent a lot of time in Oregon and enough in Southern California. Like, I'm pretty versed on varieties that are native to those areas, right? But I also don't know what I don't know. So anytime we're working with a new community, it's a learning experience for us. And then I think you said it, it's kind of like you're altering your curriculum a bit based on the information around those plants. And of course, like, a lot of the work is through food. That's the inroad for all of us, really, as human beings, right? It's like we've got that in common. And especially for students, it's like very easy for them to want to learn about a plant that they can grow and then consume. And so, two things, right? Like, you want them, I always say, like, we want to hook them early. And like, that happens mostly through consuming, right? And so that can start with something that they're familiar with, right? So when we're working with schools or districts, we'll learn from them, like, who are you? What do you all eat, right? We want to get to know you, develop that. And then also, as time goes on, introduce other plants. Like, once they are familiar with it and then they're hooked as students, then introduce them to other plants from other places. Maybe it's a country that a parent is from, or maybe it's just somewhere that they as a class are studying, right? We might start growing plants from there so that they're kind of learning it from different angles.
Okay, I think we're about to wrap up, so thank you so much to our panelists, and also a reminder to please complete your post-panel surveys, everyone. It'll take a minute.